I'm Jesse Berst. I'm the founder of SmartGridNews, and I'm your host today. Very pleased to be able to bring this topic to you, achieving the ultimate communications network, because this is the fundamental building block. You know, you get this right, and you've created the foundation for your future success and expansion. Get it wrong, and you might be back in 2 or 3 years trying to figure out an overlay or an upgrade. So getting it right means, at least in part, creating a multi-purpose communications network, not a single-purpose network, so that can really be an interdepartmental tool, not just a siloed single-purpose application. It's so critical getting this communications piece right, but it's also so challenging, and it's so fast-changing, and there's so many choices. So here's how our guest speakers are going to attack it today, this topic. First, we're going to discuss the business requirements that are driving the introduction of advanced communications. Then we're going to talk about some typical implementation and adoption patterns that IBM has observed after helping dozens of utility companies. And then finally, we're going to hear how CenterPoint Energy is building and deploying a really world-class intelligent utility network. So this is probably a good time for me to say thank you to IBM for making it possible to gather today, and to CenterPoint as well for taking the time to share their experiences with colleagues. So here's the smiling faces of today's presenters. I'll introduce them in a little bit more detail when I bring each one up in turn. But real quickly, Geoffrey is from IBM. He's got nearly 30 years experience in our industry. And Bob is from CenterPoint Energy, and also more than 30 years of experience. These are guys from the front lines. They're actually doing this stuff, and they're going to share their lessons learned today. A couple of housekeeping items. You will receive a copy of the slides. You'll receive a link to the PDF version. That link will be sent to the email address you used to register. And also, we're going to fit in as many questions as we can, but we won't be able to get to them all. So we'll send you a frequently asked questions document as well, where you'll see some typed answers to some of the questions we couldn't fit in. So let's get started. Let's hear about some of the business requirements for communications networks. So I'd like to introduce you again to Geoffrey of IBM. He spent nearly 20 years working in both regulated and unregulated utilities, and today he's with IBM as the leader of their energy and utilities practice for America. He helps to oversee many integrated solutions around smart grid applications, asset management, and lots more. So we're lucky to have him here. Geoffrey, welcome, and thanks for stopping by to share what you're learning out there in the field.
Well, thank you, Jesse, for allowing Bob and I to share our experiences on what's involved in achieving the ultimate communications network. We hope you'll find this helpful as you plan out your smart grid or intelligent utility network initiatives. As you can see on the slide, utilities face immediate issues with communication networks across their grid operations. And as you scan the immediate issues and ramifications on this chart, some common themes arise. Network obsolescence, reliability, performance, cost, and security are all serious issues, not just in supporting the business as usual, but can be disastrous in supporting the emerging requirements related to smart grid. The ramifications of this aging communication infrastructure can significantly impact overall system and financial performance, and such things as worker efficiency, regulatory compliance, and customer service. We see this as a serious issue that's unfortunately not addressed until many times it's too late. As with many infrastructure-type projects, the importance of investing in the communication network needs to be elevated to senior levels as a critical enabler of the business. Long-term benefits of an integrated smart grid communications network impact your productivity, your customers, and your bottom line. Some of the factors influencing the transformation of the grid include the following: projected growth in worldwide energy demand by 2030 is approximately 37%. 170 billion kilowatt hours are wasted each year by consumers due to insufficient power usage information. And it's been projected that 1/4 of the world's greenhouse gas emissions are created by power generation. So as you read through the benefits of a modernized communication network, they should look very familiar to you. In essence, they're the same benefits associated with that of a smart grid. Let's look a little bit at why that is. The majority of smart grid initiatives can essentially be viewed in what we call 3 I's. To deliver power more responsibly and efficiently, utilities essentially are instrumenting the grid, interconnecting the grid, and making the grid more intelligent. By instrumented, I'm referring to the devices like meters and sensors, actuators, IEDs, or intelligent energy devices. The smart grid actually looks more like the internet than the traditional grid. It's well and highly instrumented with millions of devices and distributed power sources and embedded with information technology. So for example, in 2006, there were just under 1 million smart meters installed in the U.S. And in 2010, that number jumped to over 10 million meters, or about 20 million worldwide. The communication network is at the heart of being interconnected. The network itself is the fabric that connects these devices together, connecting the utility to its assets, employees, suppliers, and customers. And then the last I is the smart grid stands for intelligent. Being instrumented and interconnected isn't really enough or sufficient for a smart grid. Utilities are planning to infuse even more intelligence into the grid than exists today through the use of advanced analytics, for example, and new ways of looking at the massive amounts of data generated by these devices. This allows the utility to model, predict, and even shape supply and demand behavior. The next few charts that I'll go over reflect our version of the communications network maturity curve. You can see on the y-axis, this is a range from one-way flow of information to a participatory network. And on the x-axis, this moves to the right from basic functionality to advanced functionality. So it's a helpful way to first establish and communicate a longer-term vision for your communication network and to understand where you are in your own evolution. We believe that most utilities are beginning their journey primarily in stage 2 or 3 on the maturity curve. The network strategy is the connective thread for all members of the business. At stage 1, the very core of base network functionality is the ability to monitor, automate, and control. This allows you to gather key performance data from your existing monitoring and automation systems and pass that information on to people and processes. The goal here is to be able to sense, respond, and analyze, and even orchestrate actionable results to drive improved operational performance. Communication networks link consumers to energy providers and providers to physical and information assets across the grid. This second stage in the maturity curve is connecting participants. This allows for voice data and video-based information to cross the business securely and efficiently. So at this stage, you're able to engage in real-time conversation with participants across the value chain. Smart grid communications networks eliminate information silos across the business operations. So the third stage of the maturity curve is all about sense and respond. Once a solid network is in place to integrate communication streams across operational silos, you effectively are able to look at your business as a whole or as an enterprise. So for example, analyzing asset utilization or power consumption patterns, customer service requests can all be looked at across the silos, and you have the ability to balance supply and demand given real-time considerations or respond to outages more quickly, for example. Utilities do some of this today, but mostly at the substation level. With the deployment of smart meters and sensors, utilities will be able to have more visibility further down the network into the client. The fourth stage is analyze and optimize. A data-driven operation helps you optimize your assets, make timely business decisions, and improve service levels based on your business and regulatory rules and constraints. So here, implementing an interconnected communication network across your grid gives you really unprecedented visibility and control across the entire enterprise. You have the ability to apply more sophisticated modeling and analytics to better manage your risks and achieve better business outcomes, for example. You can aggregate information across lines of business. So an example is we're working with one utility to help them maintain grid stability and security while integrating significant levels of intermittent renewable power generation. So the solution here is looking at strategic sensor deployment, real-time data collection and assimilation, and we combine that with high-resolution, highly accurate 3D wind forecasting. We look at wind and solar power forecasting as well, and through that we're able to significantly increase the amount of renewable energy that's added to the grid. We've also reduced the risk of grid overload and increased grid stability. And the final level of the optimized or the maturity curve here is the ability to orchestrate. And what we mean here is balance the objectives across all participants to a higher end gain. So some examples of that are energy efficiency, a green agenda, financial agenda. Participants, in essence, are willing to sub-optimize the results to enable end-to-end value chain optimization. So here we're working, for example, at IBM on a smarter energy platform that takes into account a number of data sources and combining that with analytics to provide, in essence, some better decision-making for utilities around condition-based management, distributed outages, integrated grid assessment and planning, things of that nature. So the key questions here are, how are you putting your assets to work for you by managing the flow of information across your enterprise? Will your communications network support the business and be a strategic enabler of your smart grid initiative?